If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. That really, really does a lot for us. Also, make sure you tick that notification bell to follow up on everything that we're doing. And if you're listening on any of the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you like, click the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you leave a comment and rate us. You know, we really love when y'all interact with us, and it helps us out a lot. Appreciate y'all.
And we showing everybody how to grow their confidence. One for all and gold like Donovan Gold. So we go
beyond the game, beyond the same.
Changing the culture and the landscape.
We gon' take it to the court, to the field, to the skates. Get the real from the gate.
A former varsity athlete at the University of Ottawa, and now someone who is pursuing a professional career in Australia. Yasmina Enneddam. Can you please well, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you to be here.
I'm vibrating. Like, literally, I'm so excited.
Oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Honestly, yeah, like you've said for the most of it, you and I have known each other for a very short period of time. It's been a very small window. And honestly, I've had so much fun already. So like I'm the only daughter of 2 boys in my family, the middle child. Wow. Like, yeah, so growing up, it was like super competitive always. And both of my parents played sports.
Nice.
And it was super like just local teams, like nothing crazy. But I remember like going to the field and wearing like, if you're from Canada, then you know like the Timbits.
Oh, the Timbits soccer
with
jerseys.
Like the reverse colors. Yeah. Yes.
They're massive on every kid.
Huge. You have like 4 layers of like rolled up fabric on your wrists and stuff. Oh yeah, yeah. So like I've been playing my whole life.
Okay.
There was very few periods of times where I stopped, COVID being one of them, of course, for a lot of people. But that was like one of the only periods of time where I like didn't play.
Okay. Okay.
It's
okay.
huge.
So, okay, that's fantastic. And can you give us one interesting fact about yourself? Your deepest, darkest secret. We need it.
Oh, okay. I really don't like papayas.
Huh. Okay.
I love literally so much tropical fruit, and I love fruit in general. Papayas, I can't do it. I can't.
Okay.
They freak me out.
You know what? I want to hold you because that's me too. I don't papayas. Papayas and kiwis. I don't know about that.
I can do kiwi.
Okay.
But I the people who eat like the skin of the kiwi, like just go in and bite the whole. They scare me.
I saw a video of someone doing that, and I was.
They scare me.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
I'm like, I like look you up and down, like you are.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Absolutely not.
That's hilarious.
Absolutely not.
That is actually funny. That's really funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's get into the meat of what we're here for. So this is the Leadership Academy, and we are asking people, what is leadership to you?
Honestly, when I saw that question come up, I actually took like 2 days to think about it. That was the last question that I filled out and that I really thought of, because I feel like it's a really nuanced question.
Yes.
It's a really nuanced question. And for some people, especially like when you do a deep dive into a lot of people's like childhoods, just because you're so influenced by anybody who's an adult, anybody who's older than you, you're so open, your mind is so vulnerable to things, like taking and receiving information, that like a leader ultimately is just an adult figure at that point, right? Because you're taught like, oh, listen to adults, right? Listen to adults as a kid. You deflect or a lot of those bigger decisions to adults. So like the idea of a leadership when you're a kid drastically changes like as you grow up, especially like depending on the kind of childhood that you had, right? So you could have people that are in charge that were great figures, and then you also have people in charge that were not great figures, but still sat in these roles to lead. And so it's like, I really had to sit with that because it was like, do I define a leader and leadership as like the true definition, or is it something a little bit more complicated than that? Because I feel like, again, as you grow up, those leaders are almost like God figures. Right? And not in the same sense that like the Jesus or anything like that.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
that when you look at your parents as a child, you see them as like these godlike figures or teachers, same thing.
Okay.
Whereas when you grow up, you start to see them as people.
Okay. Yes.
So there's
yes.
like there's different shades to it. Does that like you kind of know?
I kind of get that. I kind of get that. Yeah. Yeah.
You learn to humanize them a little bit
Yes,
more, and like
yes.
as you understand like people and flaws, you see them as people with flaws. So I think the word leader takes on like it changes a slightly different meaning sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. It's really interesting that you said that you humanize them, because that's actually one of the main reasons for this podcast is to bring on people that society may deem as leaders and humanize them and bring them down off that pedestal, right? Like we don't have to worship these pro athletes who are they're playing their sport. We can see them as everyday people, and the definition of leadership or the characteristics of leadership still permeate our life outside of sport.
100%.
Right? So you mentioned that the definition of leader changes over time. How has it changed for you?
For me, it's the definition hasn't changed, but who I view as those pivotal people has.
Okay.
And not necessarily in a negative way or even necessarily in a positive way. It's just my perception of them changed a little bit. And what I mean by that is I don't necessarily look to other people to lead, because like if you look up the definition of leader and leadership, it's to hold influence over like a person or a group or an organization. Whereas like, how am I leading myself?
That's big.
How, like, right? You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
like ultimately, you can only control yourself. You can have influence. You can shuffle. You can guide. You can coerce. You can manipulate. You can do whatever it is. And a lot of those words have some negative connotation, but like just removing them and just using them as adjectives. Like, how are you leading yourself? How are you walking in on like showing up as yourself? Are you leading yourself? What are the decisions that you're making? Are you standing in that versus are you looking to somebody else? Are you, which never is necessarily a bad thing. Like so many people have all these different experiences and wisdom that you can pull from. Absolutely. But ultimately it's just like, well, how are you leading yourself? How are you showing up as yourself? How are you showing up in these environments? How are you showing up in the morning when you're brushing your teeth? Like how are you, right? Because that takes discipline.
Yes, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Right? And so it's like, how am I doing that for myself?
Okay. And over time, obviously you've learned these skills. You've been able to kind of pick and choose from different people, the different influences that you've seen in your life, and put that all into one, right? One of my best friends, Declan Cross, at a school talk that we did, he said that there's two things you can control in life. You can control how you act and how you react. And I've never heard it like that before. I understand the concept. That's an age-old concept. But hearing like that, I sat with it. I was like, well, yeah. You can control how you act.
Different.
It hit different.
It resonated with you. You understood it, but it resonated with you.
Absolutely.
And I feel like sometimes when you talk with people, you can understand them, but does it resonate with you? Because when you can connect with somebody like that, like when it resonates with you, you don't forget it.
Absolutely.
You don't forget it.
Absolutely. No, and I say that to everybody now. Like you can control how you act and react. Everything else, don't worry about it. That's not you.
There's no point.
No.
There's literally no point.
Why are you stressing yourself out?
Why?
Right? Okay. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay, so talk a little bit about your upbringing. You said you are the middle child of 3 kids, and just kind of speak to that. Speak to the leaders that you saw around you and your I guess your upbringing in sports.
Yeah, I, for all intents and purposes, grew up like as a third boy. If that, like, and girls that only have brothers will understand what I mean by this. Like, my mom, it was like both my parents they're separated from when I was a young age. So obviously like didn't know too much difference about that. And I was so concentrated on, because when you're a kid, you're selfish when you're a kid. And it's not because you don't care about others or because you're XYZ, whatever, but it's like your world is so small. It's so small. And so who I had with me was my brothers, my mom. My mom has 5 sisters.
It's a massive family.
And they are well-educated women, let me tell you. Like, these women are well-educated.
All about the power. Love
and
it.
I grew up with these, like, well-spoken, loud, if you know me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, not afraid to, like, not hurt someone's feelings, but have tough conversations.
Yes.
Like, that was never an issue.
Okay.
And so when I grew up with my brothers, you combine that with the fact that, like, ultimately male figures and being around men never caused me any level of anxiety. And I see that in a lot of my friends that grew up in predominantly female households where they didn't have brothers. Parents are separated, and they maybe don't have necessarily, like, intimate relationships with, whether it be their fathers, whether it be romantic partners, like that sort of thing. And I can see, like, there's characteristic traits that are, like, very different. Like, my best friend, one of my best friends, she grew up with sisters. Her parents are together, but she grew up with a sister. And so male-dominated spaces, literally and figuratively, cause her to retreat.
Interesting.
A little bit. Whereas, like, I crack the door open and I'm like, let's go. Like, let's do this. Like, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? Like, all kinds of stuff like that. So, like, that's how I grew up. And, of course, like, eating dirt. Like, my mom is like, get outside. Get outside. I don't, you come inside, go to the bathroom, and then you get back outside.
Exactly.
And, like, that's how I grew up. That's exactly how I grew up. And I skinned my knees, and I fought with my brothers. And it was like a regular, like, it's literally a regular childhood. Like, I don't really know how to.
Like,
no,
I get you.
Childhood.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that, at what point did you realize you wanted to play professional soccer?
I'm laughing because I was laughing when I answered this question, like, in my head. And it's because people have been asking me that a lot, and I had a conversation with my mom about it because we lived downtown Chilliwack, and it was a bit of a rougher neighborhood. Like, we were, like I said, like a 1 income, like lower to middle class income household. We had a lot of support where people were present to help us. And so she and I, like, there literally was, I never grew up being like, oh, I can't do that. My mom was like, okay, go do that then. Like, I don't even care if you have a plan. Like, just go and do it. Just go and do it, right? And that was one thing that I will always credit her for, was just like, oh, you want to do it?
Do it.
Okay, then go. Like, what's stopping you? Put shoes on. Like, let's go.
Okay.
So
shout out mama.
Right, I know. Let's go, Erin. Wherever you are, you're at work right now. Love you, Mom. But I remember sitting in the car, and I would watch the Premier League with my dad Saturday mornings. And I didn't even know what I was, like, consuming. I was just like, oh, there's these guys on TV that play, like, whatever. Don't know the names of the teams. Don't know the names of the guys. Like, nothing. And I remember, I don't even know how it started or who came up with it. I was 6 years old, like 5 or 6. And my mom was like, you're going to be the first woman to play for Manchester United. I had no idea who Manchester United was, but she was convinced. So I was convinced. And I think I went around telling complete strangers that that's what I was going to do. That I was going to play for Man U. I had no idea who they were. I knew that they played soccer and it was a guys team, but that didn't matter.
Not at all.
And I was going to, like, 6 years old, I was like, I would carry a whole gender.
You held that crown of confidence since then.
I wore that like a personality trait, like when I walked into a room.
Absolutely love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Well, so at what point did you realize that it could be a reality? Because you signed a contract. You're going.
Yeah, no, I'm going. It was, I don't think it really, I always knew it was something that I wanted to do. It was never in the pursuit of a professional level. It was always something that I wanted to continue to do. It was always like, I have fun doing this. so I'm just going to continue to do
Okay.
it. Like that level of like kid understanding of like, this brings me joy.
Yes.
So I'm just going to keep doing
Yes.
it. Right.
Yes.
So that was sort of what guided me through it.
Okay.
And then of course, like as I got older, you start to have like a different understanding of all these things. And it was, I think I was like 13 or 14 where it became a more serious topic of conversation, like with my dad.
Okay.
With my dad especially.
Okay.
My mom was like, you do whatever you want to do. You do you, girl.
Okay.
But I remember very specifically the words that he had asked me when I was like, I think I was like 13 or 14. And we were just talking about it. And he was like, well, how bad do you want it? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, what does that even mean? He was like, how bad do you want it? He's like, you think you're the only one who has a dream, this goal that they want to do, whether it be starting a business, whether it be getting an education, being rich, like having a happy family, kids, a dog, whatever it is. He's like, you think you're the only one? And that was like a huge reality to like wrap my head around as a kid.
Okay.
Because I was just like, why do you have to do me dirty like that?
He made you big.
He did.
And that's so big.
He did.
Yes.
No, he really did.
Okay.
And like, I have a very complicated relationship with my dad of like cultural differences and all kinds of stuff like that. But I will always hold his advice as like peak advice. Okay. Like it's up there more than my bosses, more than sometimes belief in myself over because he approached things and he was just like, he's not going to tell me that if I just want something, it'll happen. Okay. He's not that person. He's like, if you want it, he's like, there's work that has to go into it. And, absolutely. And understanding that, but then having it resonate with you and actively being in that are two completely different things.
Oh, absolutely.
Two completely different realities.
Yes. And from a young age too.
Very.
Yes.
Very. Okay. And I took that literally.
Yes.
And it ultimately was almost like, what's the word? Like to my detriment.
Okay. Okay.
And I took it too far.
Okay.
And it sort of bit me in the ass when I was like, oh, sorry, can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm so sorry.
You are good. Don't worry about it.
Who was editing this podcast? I'm so sorry. It basically like took me out at the knees.
Okay.
When I was like 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting because you hear so much about people just they when they're younger, especially they just don't know. They don't know what it's really like at that level, and they just chase a dream. And I love what you said earlier, that you just want to do it because you had fun doing it.
Yep.
And I feel like that's the reality for a lot of people. They have fun doing it, but at the professional level, it's different. Yep. It's so different, right? I've heard, I was doing a workshop with some basketball players, and one of the coaches came in and he had played professional basketball, and he was like, he broke down the business of playing pro sports.
It is.
And it's the ugly reality of, if you're not hitting certain stat lines, if you're not performing a certain way, if you're not acting a certain way to fit the brands, you're gone. Doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter what attitude you have. You're gone. And so, like your dad said, how bad do you want it? How much are you going to put in the work, not only to be good enough, but to make yourself professional enough to get into an environment and succeed? It's like any other business where that you come in, you have to fit this culture.
Absolutely.
And once you're within the culture, there are certain people who are culture changers.
Totally, 100%.
Absolutely, right?
100% they are. Yeah.
And if you can be a culture changer, absolutely go for it. But in order to get into it, I feel that you have to be able to bring yourself to a such higher standard than everybody else. And like, how many people in this world actually play pro sports? That's the thing, is that it's I think I was watching on my social media, I follow a lot of like mental health and psychology and all of that, because that's so influential in business, sports, and life. And it was a stat for an academy in the UK of boys sports, and it was like
1% of 1% make it professionally. And it was something ridiculously small like that. And when he always asked me, like, my dad always asked me, like, how bad do you want it? And it's like what you're saying, like, when you step into the business mold of it, the novelty wears off. And I think people forget that a lot of the time, how bad do you want it is a multi-layered statement. It's how bad do you want it when you don't want to get up in the morning to go to practice? How bad do you want it when you're not actually touching the field?
Exactly.
Right? Like, you're putting in all this work, but you're not seeing like the fruit of your own labor. How bad do you want it when all of your friends are quote unquote, right? Like, being successful in their personal lives. Because I had to make a lot of sacrifices, especially at like in your early 20s when all of your friends are like going out and doing whatever. But ultimately, like, that's what I signed up for. I signed up for that. So it's not like a boo, I'm missing out on these. Like, yeah, it sucks. Am I missing out on a lot of things with my friends? Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, it's like, how bad do you want this? Where are you willing to make these sacrifices and these adjustments in the pursuit of something that's much larger than you?
Absolutely. I had a teammate when I was at the University of Toronto, Ryan Saldana. And I'll never forget this man.
Name.
He's a great guy. Great guy. I'll never forget it.
Shout out Ryan.
Shout out Ryan, man. In high school, you know, he was a smaller dude, but he was in the weight room all the time, like just strong, right? And then he went to the University of Toronto, which is where I ended up afterwards. And he worked his butt off. He was in the gym. He was training. He was in the meeting rooms, asking all the questions. He knew how to play the game, but because of his size, because of certain whatever politics whatever you want to call it, he just didn't see the field, right? And it was unfortunate because he was a great athlete, but he just didn't fit what the team needed at the time. And so for 5 years or whatever it was, he was at the University of Toronto. He didn't play. I think he played maybe in the preseason. He played maybe on his senior night, but he didn't. But he dedicated himself to being there and to bringing rookies along. He brought me along and was like, hey, this is how you got to do things if you want to be at this level. And I remember he graduated and he left. I'm pretty sure he went to law school. I'm pretty sure he's a lawyer now. He's doing his thing. He's happy, right? And so I see guys like Ryan who sacrifice so much and they still don't make it there. And so it kind of begs the question, who inspires you to keep going? Who inspires you that you look to want to make it to that point?
I don't necessarily know if I've met that person. I've met people who are inspiring.
Okay.
And I've met people who have overcome so many barriers, especially on like the women's side of things, like so many barriers, like it's just incredible. And like those people, whether it be men or women, regardless, right? Because I think that if you are part of the oppressed group, whatever that is, at the time or in the industry, in the field or whatever it is, you have those that benefit from that group who just also ultimately have to do the work as well, right? That sort of thing. So I don't necessarily know that I've met one singular person. Okay. I think I pull facets from different people.
Absolutely. Special shout out to Roundball Basketball, a twofold grassroots entity that not only provides the all-around basketball experience for all athletes of all skill sets, but also uses the game as a platform to impact its community. Contact them at roundball.bc on Instagram to get involved. The Washington Kids Foundation and Game Ready facility has provided a safe place for children and youth to develop and pursue their goals and dreams. The high-level coaches comprised of current and former pro, Olympic and university coaches, and athletes provide a supportive and competitive environment for each individual to be challenged in order to reach new personal bests. The Game Ready and Washington Kids Foundation journey of development ensures the path includes growth of character, leadership, and passion. All attributes that are valued through every stage of life. Okay, so you mentioned that, I love that you mentioned that you pull from people. and you kind of take different pieces of other people to kind of put into yourself. That's something that I found myself doing kind of over the years as well. Like I talk to people and I keep saying my mentor this, my mentor that. I have many online mentors or many people who I consider my mentors from afar, and they don't know that they're directly mentoring me.
Yep.
It's because I just I feel like the best pieces of other people and try to make it into myself. And that's something that I found that really works, right? One phrase I love is just go be a sponge. Right?
Absolutely.
You look at a dry sponge and you start pouring water on it, it's going to fill up, and all the stuff that you don't need, all the excess, is going to drip out. Right? You don't need to take every single word that someone says as the gospel. You don't. It doesn't have to be the absolute truth for who you are. You're still your own person. But how are you going to create this person from the different things that you learn from other people, right? I think that's super important that we all are able to do, right?
And I feel like doing that too, like it challenges what you view on things. It's like everybody's evolving, everybody's growing. So it's like this person that you pulled this idea from, you may experience something and then you change your mind.
Yes.
I no longer look to this person or view this person as such and such anymore. And again, it's not negative, it's not positive, it just is.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life.
And it takes such a level of humility to be able to recognize that in yourself. Say, hey, maybe that's not where I am at this point. Maybe that's not who I am at this point. And I need to kind of,
I can't show up like that right now.
No, definitely
right
not.
Now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love that. I absolutely love that. So in your sporting career thus far, right now you play TSS Premier Women's Football. Who are the people that have that you see that who are the leaders in that space that you see that help you in pursuing your goals?
I might get a little emotional. Like, I'm not gonna lie, but I can't because my eyeliner looks really good. But when I joined that team in such a vulnerable state, like both physically and mentally. Okay. Like physically in a way that, like, at that time we were still into COVID. We were sort of coming out of it. Like, I've only been playing for that team a year this past January. Okay. Like, that was the first time I showed up on that team for practices. And so at that point, I'm a huge advocate for, like, mental health. I've experienced it personally. I've experienced the violent side of it, physically towards me or from people in on themselves, that sort of thing. So huge advocate for it. And so my poor mental health was manifesting in physical traits, in like physical things that were happening to me. And it was horrifying. Like, it was absolutely horrifying. I go back and I look at that time and I was just like, oh my gosh. And that team is so wild because I never, as I say this, it's so ironic, I'm about to speak in an absolute, but I never speak in absolute as I'm speaking in an absolute, like the irony of it. Like, I never speak in absolutes. But when I say that environment was everything I needed, down to the showing up, stepping into that environment was everything I needed for the space that I was in at that time, at the person that I was walking into that, walking through that door. It was everything that I needed, and good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. And when I say bad, I don't mean inherently negative, but I mean in a way that challenged me. And it challenged my ego. It challenged my level of self-respect. And it challenged a boundary, a self-imposed boundary. And so those three things, they're still challenged today. I still have to check myself all the time. And this happened to me at practice literally last week. My coach was like, what are you doing? Stop blaming other people. What are you doing? And it wasn't like anything outwardly vocal of me being like, well, why weren't you here? It was, I'm looking for a pass and nobody's there. And he was like, take some responsibility. And it's little things like that. And he's never shouts, he never screams like anything like that. My coach is he's the type of coach, again, the perfect coach who I needed at that time.
Absolutely.
Because I couldn't believe in myself and I needed somebody to believe in me. And through him doing that, I was able to come out of that space.
Okay. Yes.
In a very short period of time, in like a very short period of time, right? So like COVID, I didn't play. Like nobody played. Nobody played. It wasn't a thing. All sports were done for the most part. So I was sitting in a 2-year cesspool of like my poor mental health, and it forced me to deal with it. Because I couldn't deflect. I couldn't go off and do anything. I had to deal with it because it was staring me in the face every day, every single day. And as horrible as COVID was, as horrible as it was for a lot of people, I'm thankful for the box that it put me in. Because had that not happened, I don't think that I would have been able to move myself out of there. Like at all.
Huge shout out to Total Soccer Systems Academy, TSS. Y'all do your thing.
Brendan Corey.
You know, call me because we're doing things here. I plug you. Y'all didn't pay me. I'm just saying. Anyway,
if you do, ask him about his ice cream machine.
Ice cream machine. I hope it's not like McDonald's always broke. Anyway. So clearly you are a leader on your team. How? I would say you're a leader on our team. I have watched you guys play several times. Maybe you don't think so, but I think you are a leader on your team. How do you see yourself kind of take charge in your role? Because I feel that everybody can be a leader at some point, but how do you take charge in your role to bring along the other girls? And how have you seen your leadership kind of progress over your time with TSS?
I think a big one, and it didn't really click in my brain playing with them. It sort of clicked a little bit before that. And it was advice that I had heard from somebody that I follow on social media. I don't remember exactly who it was. And it was like, it was something very simple. It wasn't even that profound. But the way it was like coming about was profound for me anyway, and my growth. And it was something stupid. Like if you go to the gym and you're insecure about the fact that you haven't shaved your legs or something like that. And it's just like, well, think of somebody else. Like if you saw another girl who didn't have her legs shaved, like, are you gonna care? No. So like, why do you care about yourself? Like it's, everybody's too focused on themselves. Like, don't worry about it. And so like how I show up for myself, and again, how I lead myself, one of the big ones was stepping out of an environment that discouraged mistakes and stepping into an environment where they encouraged mistakes. And it was, I talked to my therapist a lot about how my relationship with soccer was like an abusive romantic relationship. It was very abusive in the ways that I talked to myself, in the way that I treated myself. And it's just like, I would never let anybody talk to me or treat me like that. So it's like, well, then why are you doing it to yourself? So it moved from that to stepping into this environment where he was like, I want you to make mistakes. Like if you're not making mistakes, then I don't think you're trying hard enough. Then I don't think you're trying hard enough. And it was like, okay, but then you're going to yell at me. And it was like, I don't want to be yelled at. I don't want to be blah, 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 whatever it was. And he was just like, no, I'm not. And it took him like leading his actions after his words. Like he said, I'm not going to yell at you, but then he went out and also did not yell at me. So it was a weird, I was like, oh, he was telling the truth. Okay, I can believe him. But it's like again, it's just like when you look at a romantic relationship and or just any relationship in general, if you're used to a specific kind of quote unquote abuse or negativity and you step into another environment, that disconnect doesn't just sever. It's still there. You expect it to be there. And so it was like, I now, at least I try. I also have to remember that not everybody I play with is pursuing something like this. So again, that's an ego check on myself. That's an ego check for me, right? Is when we play games, when we practice, whatever it is, somebody is showing up and doing the best that they can that day. And you know what? And even if they're not, that's not my business. business.
That's not your business.
That's
No.
not my business.
Absolutely.
I'm responsible for myself.
Yes.
So it's like knowing that I needed somebody at that time, especially when I was a kid, was like, because I was delusional as a child. Like, I was like, I'm going to be all these things. I was so delusional as a child.
Hey, high hopes. High hopes.
Absolutely. And I tell this to your wife all the time.
Yes.
Is be delusional in your ambition. Be so delusional in your ambition, but be very honest about the work it would take you to get there.
Facts. Yes.
Be delusional about your ambition, but understand the reality that it would take you to get there.
If your dreams aren't so big that they scare other people, they're not.
They're not big enough.
No, that scare yourself. If your dreams aren't so big that you scare yourself, they're not big enough. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I took into myself was 90% of the work is just showing up.
That's the one right there. When you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. If you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. and you don't want to go to the gym, that's when you got to do it. Push yourself.
And it doesn't have to be the best session of your life.
No.
When I say 90% of the work is showing up, I've showed up to practices and spent the hour crying. I didn't even do a drill, but I showed up.
Yes.
But I showed up.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was it.
Absolutely.
And that was all I could do that day.
Yes,
that was
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. I think it takes such a special person to be able to do that. And to also be able to recognize that in your teammates, right? Because I feel like as a leader, you want to not only hold yourself to a high standard, but also hold your teammates accountable to the standard that you set as a team.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if they show up, like, hey, if they're just kind of, laissez-faire, just kind of lottie-dotting around, then kick them in the butt a little bit, let's pick it up.
Absolutely.
However, being able to recognize that someone physically or mentally cannot push themselves that day and be alongside them saying, hey, what do you need? How can I help you in the situation? And being able to see that as it's huge. It's huge and absolutely necessary. So I'm so glad you can recognize that in yourself. And two, how that you're able to do that for other people. What are some of the challenges that you have found in leading a group of women that are kind of you have a mixed bag? You have some people that have high aspirations, and you have people that just want to play around and have some fun.
Some of the challenges that I face is recognizing my own privilege in those spaces.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is not everybody is in a position where they can dedicate the time that it would take to necessarily pursue certain things.
Okay, I hear you.
And I understood that through realizing it in a completely different area of my life through my past work. So I entered a very male-dominated field. I sold cars during a recession.
I sold my car.
I did. That's how we met. And I was in a space of privilege where I could leave that job and I would still remain secure. I could leave that job and that environment and dedicate myself to the pursuit of my dreams and not worry financially, not worry about my family that I have to take care of, not worry about bills, not worry about other very huge responsibilities, a mortgage, those sorts of things. The scope of my responsibilities were a lot smaller and a lot less necessity versus want. Okay. And I think, again, when you step into certain environments, whether that is expressed to you very, literally or not, you have to acknowledge that, everybody is stepping into an environment with a different level of privilege.
Absolutely.
And so, for example, you have a kid.
Yes.
You can't just drop whatever you want.
No.
You got childcare. This boy needs diapers.
Everything. Yes.
Exactly. And so it's just you have more things on your plate that you need to make sure and you and Brenda, right? You guys are a team. You guys are a unit, right? So it's you both need to have that conversation where it's just me.
Yes.
I'm afforded that privilege.
Yes.
I have the space
yes.
where I can not have to worry about paying rent, for example, in the pursuit of this now.
Yeah. That is honestly a gem that I had never truly thought about. Understanding your privilege in certain space, that eclipse Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, that's fantastic. I love that. I love that. And okay. So now let's move on to slightly different segment. Let's be a little reflective. Okay. From your perspective now of someone who is about to go play professional soccer in Australia, in a whole different culture, whole different continent, you're going literally across the world.
Literally across the world, 15-hour time difference. The seasons are swapped.
Right? Like, okay, so from that perspective, a whole different group of women, now you're being paid to play. It is how you're going to put food on your table.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to yourself, one in high school and two in university?
It's funny because those are two very different people.
Yes,
like absolutely. The years themselves are not that far apart, but they're very different people. Like I said this before, when I was a teenager, I was delusional in my aspiration, and I was delusional to the work that it would take.
Okay.
University me, total opposite. Like there was no, like, it was like, you told me I was garbage, I believed you. I believed you.
Okay.
When I was 16, you told me I was garbage, I'd be like, I know you're not talking to me. I know you are not talking to me.
Yeah.
Like just stuff like that. And so one piece of advice that I always tell Brenda, and I'm for sure I've told it to you, is hindsight is always 20/20.
Absolutely.
Hindsight is always 20/20. And so if I wasn't necessarily delusional in my aspiration as a teenager, I don't think I would have had the confidence or the ambition to pursue a university level sport, because especially in girls sports, a lot of the girls drop off at 16, 17. Okay. Like those who pursue, especially in smaller towns, a lot of them, those percentages drop off.
Okay.
At a seriously competitive level, or even just in general. When I got to university, it was like the world said, ma'am, this is not the time for this. I'm going to need you to like take a step back. And I kept saying no. I kept saying no.
Okay.
And so the smackdown kept coming harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
And I don't think, had I, as awful as it was, had my whole level of self-confidence truly shattered, could I come back and know that whether I go out there and I sit on the bench the whole time, I'm successful.
Okay.
So that, like, the fact that your friend Ryan Saldana, did I say that right? Okay. Shout out Ryan. Had not met you, would love to. Whether or not that was something that he recognized in himself, like, massive fake it till you make it person. I am a massive fake it till you make it person, because nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know. You are the only one who needs to know. So it's, had I not been able to do that, I don't think I would be able to necessarily step into the space that I'm stepping into with the level of security that I have in myself.
Yes.
Whether I succeed or not.
Yes. Interesting. I love that fake till you make it phrase. Love it but don't love it.
It's a weird one.
Yes,
you either like it or you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. I had a mentor, another mentor, who I said that once, and he's like, "What are you faking though?" I'm like, "I'm faking this confidence." He's like, "If you're able to fake it, you already have it.
Then you already have it.
You just need to work on it and hone it, right?" And so instead of saying, "Oh, fake it till you make it," you just say, "I'm working on myself. I'm working on this skill that's already within me. I just don't recognize it yet," right? So being able to work on it internally and not necessarily broadcast it to the rest of the world, that is another skill in humility that people need to have, and not many people do. It's like, some of y'all need to just, calm yourself down. We love the journey, we love the grind, we ain't gotta see it all the time, but absolutely no. I think that is so key, to be able to build on those things, right? Okay, thank you. That's huge. Okay, so do you have anything kind of on the side, or a project, or anything that kind of you're working on, be it yourself, be it a different passion project or something that we can get plugged into with?
Passion projects, no.
Okay.
I feel like I'm a fairly private person.
Okay.
In the way that I present online, not necessarily in my actual personal life, because those that are very, very close to me know like very deep things that happen in my life.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think I'm working on personally is a level of quiet peace.
Okay.
A level of quiet peace. And when I say quiet peace, I literally mean quiet peace. Like those are two complete sentences to me in my brain and how they present themselves.
Okay.
It's wild. And when I say I'm so secure in myself and how that relates to the quiet piece is like, there is no anxiety, like truly none of me stepping onto a plane, stepping into a completely different environment in a country I've never been to before, where 90% of the animals can kill me, literally and figuratively.
Giant spiders?
Bro, dinner plate size spiders. Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely does nothing to me. Does nothing to me. 6 months ago, me, whole other situation.
Okay, gotcha.
But like, I'm enjoying the idea of like, okay, I'm at a point where I can quietly and peacefully and with joy build my life.
That's so big.
With my with no like, I gotta do this and I gotta hit this and now I'm doing this, and it's just like I am enjoying the part of my life that where I'm at, because I feel like when we have goals and ambitions and it's great, it's like you miss out the opportunities to enjoy that you've hit one.
Yes.
You hit one.
Yes.
You did it. But it's just like, if we are so focused necessarily on the grind and the pursuit of it all, which is great, you have to, as much as everybody says it, learn to enjoy the process or learn to love the process. I don't think you do. I don't think you have to enjoy it all the time.
No.
I don't think you do. I think you can hate part of it. Like truly, I think you can absolutely not want to do part of it and choose to show up and do it anyway.
Discipline.
And that's just it. 90% of it is just showing up. So it's like, I'm romanticizing the idea of like going and getting a coffee. Like that's what I'm excited for. I'm excited to wake up and go to the beach and go get a coffee. The place that I'm staying at, I'm going to be babysitting a dog. And like, if you know me, dogs are everything. Everything.
Love it.
They're just all of them. Every single one of them. Truly. Every single one of them. Love them. I could go on. I could go on.
That's beautiful.
But like, that's what I'm excited to do. That's what I'm excited for.
Okay, that's beautiful.
That's
that is absolutely beautiful. And how, with you being in Australia, how can we follow along with you? How can we watch your journey and what you're doing there?
That's the thing, is that I'm not sure how that's gonna present itself yet. I don't know. I really don't know, because I thought about that too. I was like, ooh, do I document this? Do I like start vlogging? Like, do I become a TikTok sensation or something ridiculous?
Well,
like,
when you figure it out, let me know and I will let y'all know.
Oh, the second I see a spider, Shaka, you personally will be receiving a picture of it.
I love it.
Personally.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And Andre.
Perfect. Yes.
I need to know if this boy's got his letters down and his animal sounds.
Oh, absolutely. He's gonna have some spiders. I have no idea what spiders sound like, but he'll make up a sound. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us, and we are so excited for you in this next step of your pro journey.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And y'all, thank you for joining this episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. This is the Leadership Academy. Peace and love, and we'll catch y'all later.
Different names for success, but we gon' taste. Keeping metal on 10, gon' be okay. Gold medals round neck, CFL rings, Bill Kings, Queens, BTG, repeat rotate.